Hey, what's up, guys? This is Rick with the Digital Divide. Today, we're doing our first podcast. I've been trying to set this up for a while now, and I just haven't had the time because I'm planning a wedding that's happening in about 2 weeks, and then I'm also busy as hell with work. And then trying to get everyone together, it's been a nightmare. So this channel this podcast is primarily going to focus on basically nerd shit, video games, movies, comic books, that sort of thing. It's going to have a rotating cast, so it's going to be pretty much whoever we can get that week. I'm going to be a regular host, and then whoever can co-host that week. We're still trying to work out the logistics. It's hard to get everyone on a working schedule together. But yeah, that's pretty much it for now. I want to introduce the two guests that we have today. Chris, we're going to go ahead and start with you. This is Chris Green. Chris is a fellow YouTuber and runs the channel Retro Gamer BB 2019. So if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're into, that sort of thing.
Just a general nerd, I suppose. A lot of retro gaming. Yeah. Testing out some things on the 3DO coming out soon.
Cool. I'm trying to fix the view so that we're both kind of, oh, there we go. Perfect. All right, so that is Chris. Thank you for being on. Our next guest here is AJ Vias. He is the local car enthusiast. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, other than this gentleman to my left being my best friend, I'm into cars, yes. I'm into actually a lot of things, movies, not really into video games, but I enjoy hearing about them. We hope to do many other podcasts, and I'm an enthusiast of Rick's channel, Digital Divide. Into movies, into the local scene. I'm a friendly guy. Try and get to know everybody. You know, everybody has a different story, and I try and get to know a little bit about that because you want to be a part of. You want to be a part of it, you know. So I really enjoy that. Other than that, not really much to say. But let's get this going.
Cool. So Chris, I want to start with you and ask you, because he's not super into games, so you're going to be my primary person when it comes to video games. So two questions for you. What is your favorite video game console of all time and why?
Probably the 3DO was my favorite. I had a Sega Genesis when I was growing up, and I ended up trading it in a Sega CD and a 32X for a 3DO at a local game shop in North Carolina, and got hooked on it. It's like a PlayStation, but you know, not as fast.
Cool.
I made it for years.
I don't have a ton of experience with that system. That's one of the few that I really didn't play much at all. I think the only two systems, I think that's one of the only two that I never actually owned. So that's a big sore spot in my collection. For me, if you've watched the channel, you know that I'm obsessed with the Sega Saturn. That is my best system ever made, in my opinion. And I think that it's mostly due to nostalgia because I grew up at a time in my life where that was when I was home the most, and I was f***ing up a lot in my personal life. So it kind of kept me out of trouble, and I stayed home and I played games and I had so much fun with it. And I love how shitty the graphics were. I love that they were so blocky and the system was chugging along and it could barely run the games that it ran, but it was something very charming about that I like a lot. Now, AJ, I know that you're not super into gaming, but I assume you've played some games. Do you have a favorite console or a favorite game?
So I originally had, about 15 years ago, the original Xbox, which I still have. Probably played 1 or 2 games on it, mainly the Need for Speeds, and
Oh, I love that series.
there was a Godfather game that I played. Godfather is one of my all-time favorite movies. To much chagrin of my friends who think other movies are better. But interesting question for both of you.
Goodfellas is better.
Is if you're speaking to a novice like me who wants to get into video games, because I have plenty of coworkers that are into video games, what do you guys recommend as the go-to system? Hey, go to Xbox or go to PS4 and get this game, and you'll like, I know you play Rainbow Six Siege and plenty of others. I have coworkers that play Valhalla and
Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, Valhalla. So an interesting question. Let's kick this off. What do you guys think of a good go-to gaming system for somebody that's just starting out in gaming or just wants to have a good time and is not really into the details or the graphics or the systems and everything like that?
I think that's actually a pretty great question. Chris, do you have any recommendations for somebody just getting into it?
I mean, it really depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for like modern gaming, you're gonna have to go with a PC or an Xbox One or PS5, whatever. But if you're into retro stuff, Sega Genesis, probably the cheapest one to pick up.
Yeah, I would add to that if you have a halfway decent computer, you can get into the emulation scene on the cheap. If you want to go the illegal route, you can relive a lot of classics that way. But yeah. So we're going to so I want to preface this by saying, again, this is our first episode. It's going to be a rotating cast, whoever I can get that week. We're all just going to talk about nerd stuff. That's what I'm into. So my name is Rick. I'm the creator of the Digital Divide, as I stated earlier. This podcast is going to be focused on mostly video game stuff. And then, so right now I have it set up in segments. The first segment is what we've been playing lately. So we're going to talk about games that we've been playing. We can do brief reviews, things that we recommend that you check out. And then the second segment is going to be what we've been watching lately. So that's going to focus on passive forms of entertainment like movies or TV shows or anything that you can recommend that way. And then lastly, we're gonna touch on some recent news stories and then comment on what we think about those. And that's the current segment. If you think that sucks and it's a shit way to do it, just let me know in the comments below. Just let me know. If you're listening to the audio version of this, it will be available on Spotify and iTunes. Otherwise, you can watch the video version on YouTube. So we're going to get started with the first segment, which is what we've been playing lately. And I'll go ahead and start that off. There's been a few games I've been playing lately. The first one is a game called Back 4 Blood, which is a spiritual successor to the old Valve zombie shoot 'em ups. I got it on Game Pass for free. Well, I guess it's not free because I pay a subscription, but relatively speaking, it's for free. And I hate it with a passion. I think it's fucking horrible. I don't think it does justice to the Valve games that inspires it. I think that it's incredibly dull. And I really wanted to like this game because I love multiplayer games, but I'm more of a solo player. I like playing on my own, and this game kind of goes out of its way to punish you for playing solo. So it literally blocks any kind of single player progression if you play by yourself. You can't unlock any achievements. You can't progress as far as unlocking new inventory. So you have to kind of join up with a clan, and a lot of my friends are not gamers. So that means I have to join up with randos or just telling me that they just my mom last night or whatever the hell they're talking about, or a bunch of racist kids telling me that, whatever. It's I don't like playing with like 12-year-olds or crazy people. So the game has not been enjoyable for me. I'm gonna keep playing it though. I only gave it a few hours, and I will say that the one thing about it, the gunplay is great. The controls feel amazing. The graphics are okay, but there's almost no story, and that's probably another reason why I don't like the game that much, because I'm a very story-driven person when it comes to games, when it comes to modern games, that is. So I'm not a fan of that. And then the other game I've been playing is Cruisin' Blast on the Nintendo Switch. This is a racing game that is a sequel, I guess, to Cruisin' USA back on the Nintendo 64. And it just came out as a budget release on the Switch for $39.99, and I cannot recommend it enough. I'm having so much fun with it. The graphics are amazing. The gameplay is fun. It runs at a rock solid 60 frames per second. It's a lot of fun. Highly recommended. And then the last thing, as he knows, I'm obsessed with Rainbow Six Siege. It's a shooting game. I own it on every platform. I have it on PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X.
And literally just played it 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, and right now they're doing their Halloween event, so it's spooky themed, and you can unlock new gear for that. So I'm always playing that game year round. I've been playing it since it came out like 5 years ago. So we'll move it on to Chris. What have you been playing, if anything, recently?
Well, recently I've been testing some of the hacks for the Sega Saturn, Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Ooh, what kind of hacks?
And such. It's going well. I've been doing, I don't know, making cheats for it, because that's what I do.
Cool.
Just do memory address cheats, like Game Shark code, sort of like that. And like a spooky movie or show to watch. What I've been watching is the X-Files. I've been binge watching the whole series for the whole month of October. So.
Sweet. AJ is not a huge gamer, so I'm not going to go to him for what he's been playing lately, because I know it's nothing. But let's go ahead and jump into what we've been watching lately.
Hang on, before you go into what you've been watching, interesting question. The primary games really are Call of Duty. Where do both of you stand on the Call of Duty franchise? Do you think over the years, because I know it's been out for a few years, do you think it's been played out, or do you think it's still relevant?
It's the same game every year, but people love it because it controls so well. It always runs at a lock solid 60 frames per second. And we have a mutual friend, Yasmin, and she's obsessed with it. That's pretty much the only game she plays. So we got to get her on here at some point to talk about Call of Duty, because she's the expert when it comes to that. I have it. Do you play it at all?
Well, I was gonna say briefly that I haven't played past the third Call of Duty game.
Oh wow. Okay.
Once it stopped being mostly single player, I kind of stopped playing.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I do play multiplayer, but I prefer the multiplayer games that have consequence. I don't like games where you just die and then you immediately just respawn. So there's no penalty for death, essentially. So I like games that are more tactical based. So that's why I love games like Rainbow Six Siege, because if you die, you're out for the whole round. So you're left sitting there waiting until the next round starts. The original Gears of War 1 was like that as well. And then one of my favorite games ever made is Warcraft 3. And that's the same way. Each match is like an hour and a half long, and it's super tactical and meaningful. That's the kind of multiplayer I like. But Yaz likes the brain dead shit where you just,
she is addicted to the game. She will play it on an iPad at somebody else's house. But another question for both of you before we move on to the next segment. So the Battlefield franchise.
That's a great question. So Battlefield, and this really pisses me off, but as I said before, I like story-driven single-player campaigns, and then I like them to be supplemented by great multiplayer. The most recent Battlefield game that's coming out this year is multiplayer only. So they took out all the single player You can only play it online, but they're still charging $70 for it. So
Wow.
you're paying $70 for half of a game essentially. And I'm not picking that up. I think it's ridiculous, but I don't know if Chris plays those games. Do you play the Battlefield at all?
Yeah, I played a couple of. I played the first two, so 1940 something.
Yeah, I think it was
And
1942. And then Bad Company actually had a story and destructible environments. I love those.
there was one that was modern on the 360. I can't remember what it was. I mean, it was all right. It was just it came out at the time that playing online got really disgusting. I lost interest.
Yeah, people are real assholes online, especially little kids, because they think they're
I mean,
invincible.
it's hard, but
What's
at the
that?
same time, it's like, get it over with, kid. Just move on. You know.
Well,
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I feel like even if they're younger and what have you, I feel like the younger kids have online gaming as an area to vent, So
Yeah.
if we're all an inclusive environment, let's, come on. We're all in our 30s and 40s almost. So let's
We're
let
all
them
old,
have.
by the way. I'm 38, so I'm crusty and old as fuck.
But didn't years ago, video games had GameFly, which was if and again, I'm not a gamer, guys, so don't hold this against me, but wasn't there GameFly, which was the equivalent of Netflix, but for video games?
Yes, there was. And I'm surprised that you know that.
Yeah.
I used to subscribe to that, and you could do 1 disc a month or 2 discs. Well, not a month at any given time. You could have 1 disc out or 2 discs out. And I'm going to go ahead and share a little secret here that I'm ashamed to say, but AJ and I have had a few. So,
Cheers, everybody.
I used to be a real piece of shit back in the day when I was in my 20s. I was such a dick, and I just did not. I was still trying to figure myself out. I didn't know who I was at the time, and I just did a lot of stupid shit. But part of that was stealing from GameFly. I subscribed to GameFly, and back in the day, they didn't have a lot of great tracking services. Like now, you can track everything. So you can tell if somebody just prints a shipping label but doesn't actually mail the product to you, or whatever. But back in the day, they couldn't really prove anything. So I used to rent games from GameFly. I remember one specific thing when I had a PlayStation 3, I rented the newest Street Fighter 5, I believe it was. Correct me if I'm wrong, that might be PS4, but I thought it was exclusive to the PlayStation platform. I rented it for $10, and then I just told them I never got it in the mail, and I was a lying piece of shit. I got it in the mail, and I just told them I didn't get it, and then they're like, okay, no problem. It's probably UPS or whoever up, and I got a free game, and I did that a lot back in the day. I wouldn't do that now because I'd feel bad about it, but back in the day, I was a real turd.
It's funny. It's funny how we look back on things the older we get, and then we feel bad. I have a bunch of Netflix movies back when Netflix used to mail you movies, and you forget to return them, or Redbox. You forget to return them, and they charge you the $28, and okay, I got a few movies for free, but
Yeah, I remember that. We're really old.
Yeah, I had Blockbuster Game Pass.
Oh wow, God, I miss Blockbuster. If
I
they
lived
reopened
in-
Blockbuster, I would go just to support them. I love Blockbuster. Anyways, moving on to our second segment, which is called what we've been watching lately, and I'll start this one off. For me, I've been the most recently I watched a movie called The Night House, and this is it's October, and it's my favorite time of the year. I love fall weather. I love spooky stuff. I love Halloween. It's my favorite time of the year. So I try in October to watch one spooky movie a weekend, which is as much as my fiance can tolerate. I'd watch one a day if I could, but she'd kill me in my sleep. So I can get away with one a weekend. And the one that I made, both of us watched the last weekend. I made her watch it because she doesn't like horror movies, but this one's not really a horror movie. It's more of a ghost story, but it's not graphic at all. It's called The Night House, starring Rebecca Hall. And if you can rent, I don't think it's available to stream anywhere, but you can rent it. And if you can do so, I'm so divided with this movie because the first half of it is absolutely incredible. Like the first half, it's about a teacher whose husband has, he's basically religious and she's not at all. She's like an atheist. So I don't want to, if I say too much, it'll ruin it. But the first half of the movie is like 10 out of 10. And then the second half of the movie, it just drags and drags. And the ending is not very, it's really hard to understand. I figured out what they were going for, but it just wasn't a satisfying ending. But it's a classic ghost story. It's about this girl who is a teacher and her husband just kills himself one day, gets on a boat and shoots himself in the face. And then she starts to like get messages from him after he dies. And it's, like I said, it's classic ghost story stuff. It's very intriguing. I think it's still worth a watch, even though the ending doesn't stick the landing. I highly recommend that you give that a shot if you can rent it. The other thing I've been watching is Marvel's What If on Disney Plus. So this is their animated show. What if this happened instead of this kind of thing? It just finished recently and not a fan. I thought the first episode was great. And I thought some of the other episodes had some redeeming qualities, but overall, I think the show as a whole was disappointing, super disappointing. And I maybe it's just the animation style. It seems so generic to me. And some of the voice actors were the original actors from the movies and some aren't. So it's a mixed bag when it comes to performances, but I wasn't a huge fan overall. I do love all the live action stuff that they've done so far. I thought all that was amazing. Last thing I will say about what I've been watching lately is Squid Game. Everyone's talking about how great Squid Game is. Everyone's like, oh my God, it's the greatest thing in the world. Go yourself. Squid Game is a cheap knockoff of a better show on Netflix, also Korean, called Alice in Borderland. Please watch that show if you have Netflix, because Squid Game, although I will admit is a good show, it is just a carbon copy of that show. It literally stole every idea from that show, which came out like a year before it, and I think is a better show. I'm not saying Squid Game is a bad show. I just think that Alice in Borderlands deserves more credit than it got. It's a fantastic show. It explores a lot of topics such as like sexuality. I'm not going to go into detail, just a lot of stuff. It's really, really good. And it's the same premise. It's essentially an escape room where the consequence if you don't get out of the room is death. So it's all a game, just like Squid Game. If you like that, you'll love this. Moving on, who wants to talk about what they've been watching? Any recommendations, TV-wise or movie-wise?
Most recently, I watched Clickbait, which a good show. Kind of cheesy actors, guys. I mean, Adrian Grenier, he was in Entourage.
Oh, was he the main guy from that?
Yeah, good actor, I guess. Stories drums along and until you get to the second, about 3 episodes to the end, and then it all changes. But I enjoyed it. So that's what I've been watching. I did have interesting question for you, since you said what were you watching, Hill House, and you said the foreign version was better.
Oh, Alice in Borderland.
Alice in Borderlands.
Well,
yes.
they're both foreign. They're both Korean.
But I feel like we copy some of the stuff.
Oh yeah.
My earliest example, guys, come on, I'm going to be 40 in less than 6 months. So
I just want to point out that I still have 2 years.
yeah. I don't have any gray hairs, guys. Look at this. Anyways, my question is this. I mean, I feel like we copy a lot of the shows from overseas, but the overseas shows are a lot better, even movie wise. There's a movie, and forgive me, I don't know the name of it, but there's a movie that's just like The Godfather, but a better version. But let's say Office Space, or The Office, The
yeah.
Office, rather. I'm sorry. I feel like the British version was better. Just because I don't think they have a lot of copyright, or not copyrights, but I don't think I think their humor overseas, let's just say across the pond with The Office is a lot better. It's a lot funnier. And then we bring it over here. And I've never watched The Office.
You never watched the American version?
No. I'm not a fan of Steve Carell. You guys may ding me for that and say, man, get that guy out of your podcast, Rick. You'll get more ratings. But I'm just not a fan of Steve Carell.
Jim? No, thanks. I'm good. That's what she said. Pam?
My mother's coming.
That's what she said. No.
But I just feel like the British version of The Office was better. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that. Chris, are you a fan of The Office? Or
Can I just
anything?
point out the hypocrisy of him saying that the British version was better, having never seen the alternative? That
Yes,
said,
so-
there is a movie on Netflix, to his point, called The Guilty, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, which just came out. It's about a 911 dispatch operator, and that was a European movie that came out that was remade here. And I will say that's much shittier than the original version. I think to his point, a lot of the originals are better. And it's like, what's the point of remaking these movies that are like, I get it if it's like 20, 30 years old, but if it just came out like a year ago, you're remaking it for what reason? I think The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo was a similar story where they remade that with Daniel Craig, and it was kind of a pointless remake. But I don't know. Have you seen any of those? Do you have an opinion on that, Chris?
So yeah, I've seen The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I've seen The Office. I haven't watched all the episodes. I like both. I love British comedy. Red Dwarf is one you should watch. Yeah, I've seen them, but not like from start to finish. So,
Have you seen any movies recently that you can recommend? Doesn't have to be new. It can be old.
well, I'm always gonna recommend Blade Runner.
Oh yeah, that's Chris's favorite movie in the world.
This is a CED.
What? Wait, I'm sorry. What is that?
CED. It's a
The
record.
poster, or is that a record?
It's a video on a record.
Oh, that's really cool. Where'd you get that?
From the Facebook group.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I think you and me and DJ went to go see the sequel in the theaters. I can't remember what your opinion was on that. What did you think about the sequel with Ryan Gosling?
Yeah, I liked it. It was a bit long. I feel like they should have split it, especially since they're making another movie anyway.
Yeah, that was my biggest issue with it. It was a bit too long, and it dragged on a little bit.
I have something cool to show you. Hold on.
Speaking of cool shit, I really like the Zelda shield that you've got on the back, or I guess Link's shield.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I made that at work.
Oh, you've got it on the ill-fated format. Did you make that?
Well, I designed the artwork, but I did not make, and I made the disc.
Will that actually work in a real Xbox or
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
And I got it in Steelbook.
So for those who aren't as old as we are, at one point there was a war between HD, DVD, and Blu-ray won out.
Of course it did. It had more space.
Well, it won because the porn industry adopted it. So that's pretty much why. Anyways, moving on.
We will be doing a podcast on porn.
No, we won't. So our next segment is basically covering recent news stories. Our first news story comes courtesy of IGN.com. And for those of you that don't know, if you're not into comic books, the two biggest players in the industry are Marvel and then DC. For me, I'm a big Marvel person. I'm obsessed with Marvel. I've got, if you could see my walls here, they're lined with comic books. You can't see them because they're over here. I've got a big replica Captain America shield there. But I do love Batman. Batman is a DC character who is amazing. And there's a new movie coming out. And this new segment is basically, there's a DC fan festival called DC Fandom, and apparently they're going to debut the new Batman trailer this Friday.
It's not just a signal, it's a warning.
And live streaming it online. And I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think about the new Batman movie? Specifically, what do you think about the casting of Robert Pattinson as Batman? AJ?
Ooh, honestly, and you guys again may ding me and say, "Hey, Rick, get that guy out of there." But I think he made his bones with the what were his movies where he was the vampire? Twilight. I think he made his bones with Twilight, but I'm a huge Joseph Gordon-Levitt fan. I'm not sure. I think he's playing in this next one. I'm not sure, but I don't know where I sit with Robert Pattinson. Hopefully, after I watch the movie, my mind has changed. But I grew up with Batman when I was younger. My sister used to take me to the theater when.
So you're like a Michael Keaton Batman.
Michael Keaton played Batman. But even the Christopher Nolan Batmans were fantastic. I just don't know where this whole persona is going to go with. Okay, let's bring it from the Christopher Nolan Batman, which was what's his name? Christian Bale to Robert Pattinson. But you know what? He may surprise me, but I don't know if I'm a little leery to be a fan right now.
So I do agree that I think Christian Bale had a lot more physicality. He's a bigger dude, and Christian Bale's an amazing actor. So it's hard to fill those shoes because he's incredible. And he does a lot of physical stuff. Like he's done movies where he starved himself and he's weighed like 90 pounds. I think there was a movie called The Mechanist or something like that. Machinist, where he was literally like skin and bones. And then for Batman, he got completely jacked. So he's an amazing actor. And Robert
Pattinson.
No, not Robert Pattinson, the director.
Christopher Nolan.
Christopher Nolan is one of my favorite directors in the world. But having said that, I don't come from the same background as a lot of people when it comes to Robert Pattinson. A lot of people know him from watching Twilight. I never watched Twilight. I never gave a shit about that show or the movies. It's a series of books. And as soon as I saw him like carrying Kristen Stewart on his back and he was like sparkling in the sun, I was like, I'm out. Fuck this. Like, it's just, that's not vampires for me. Vampires are supposed to be like, first of all, they're not supposed to come out in the sunlight unless you're Blade.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
You know, you're a daywalker, but like, I like traditional vampire stuff. You know, you suck blood, dark and brooding and like scary and creepy. That's the kind of vampire I like.
Do you remember the TV show on HBO? And you guys may remember this too.
True Blood.
Yes, exactly. That was a great show. I actually enjoyed that.
I can't really comment on that because I never watched it. My dad loved it though. He watched all of it.
It was a great show. I wish they would bring back shows like that again. HBO does a great job with TV shows. True Detective was a great one.
Game of Thrones.
I never really got into Game of Thrones, but you know, after all these years, guys, come on, there's spoilers. So you can put 1 and 1 or 2 and 2 together, and The series finale of Game of Thrones. I don't know where you sat on that, Rick. I know you were a huge fan, so
The last season was disappointing, to say the least. What I will say about Robert Pattinson is that I love him as an actor. So again, I don't know him from Twilight. So a lot of people watch Twilight so they know him from that, and that was like his first breakout role. And I think it's not fair to judge him for that because he was just working with the material that he had. I know him from his more serious movies, and he did a lot of stuff. Like if you've ever watched a movie called Good Time, he did a recent one called The Devil All the Time. And then he did Tenet, another Christopher Nolan movie, since we're on that topic. And he's amazing in all those movies. I think he's a great actor. And I think even though he's not as jacked as Christian Bale was, I think he's going to kill it as Batman. I'm really excited to see it. Plus, Matt Reeves is directing, and he's an amazing director. He did the most recent Planet of the Apes reboots, which were incredible. So I'm excited to see him as Batman. Do you have any thoughts, Chris, on Robert Pattinson?
Yeah, I mean, at first I was disappointed with their casting choice.
I think a lot of people were.
I was like, I don't want Batman to sparkle.
Yeah.
But so far, I mean, from what I've seen, it looks like it's going to be pretty dark, pretty grim. So maybe I'll like it. I don't know.
Yeah, the first trailer was pretty brutal. He literally beats the living shit out of some thug. Moving on to our second news story. Sony has opened up a direct registration system that will give those in the US a chance to purchase a PlayStation 5 this holiday. Not just anyone with a PlayStation account will be invited, though. According to the fact page, invitations are limited and will be based on previous interests and PlayStation activities. So basically, you are shit out of luck if you try to buy a PlayStation, even though it's been out for almost a year now. The PlayStation 5 specifically, which I think is just insane. So 2 questions for you guys. So I'm fortunate enough to own both the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. I don't know how my fiance managed to do it, but she actually bought me the PlayStation 5 that I have in front of me here last Christmas. I don't know how she found one because I was looking for one for months and I could not find one.
She loved him so much she clicked refresh for 1,000 times.
Well, so she found me one, and then she also found her uncle once. She found 2, and I don't know how she did it. Again, I was trying for months. So the Xbox Series X that I have, I bought myself, but I had to pay scalper prices to get that. So those are hard to find too. So 2 questions for both of you. A, do either of you have any interest in buying either of the next gen systems? And then what do you think about the current scalper market and availability on these? Anyone?
Chris, I'm going to let you take this one, my friend.
Oh, yeah? Well, I don't have any intention of buying a PS5. I've tried to help people find one. I found a couple, the Winchester Walmart. Sometimes has them in stock, but I mean, I've got no use for it at the moment.
What about you, AJ? Do you see? I know you're not a huge gamer.
So let me ask you this question, and I'm gonna put this on the podcast. If I want to get into gaming, what system would you recommend?
It depends on what games you're trying to get into. I think for the value proposition, Xbox is the best bet right now. You can get an Xbox Series S, which I personally wouldn't recommend. But
for someone like me, maybe you would.
Well, so for one reason, and that's Game Pass. Game Pass is the best value in gaming, I think. You pay $10 a month for the basic service, and you get basically unlimited games for free. So any game that Microsoft ever publishes, every single brand new game that they ever put out, you automatically get. So you never have to buy a game again. And it's not just first party published games, you also get a ton of third party games. So I would recommend an Xbox if you're just getting into it, just because the investment is so small. You don't have to buy. So you can buy an Xbox Series S, which is the cheaper version. There's an X and an S. I have the X, which is like the $500 one, but you can buy the $300 one. And it's only slightly more expensive than buying a Nintendo Wii, and it's way more powerful. And you get Xbox Game Pass, so you get all the games every month for free. That's the one I would recommend for you specifically.
Okay.
Might try to find you one actually.
Guys, I want to hear from you guys in the comments. Do you guys game a lot? Do you
For all three people in the comments.
yeah, for all three people in the comments. But I want to hear from you. Do you guys game a lot? Do you not game a lot? What games do you play?
I don't think they'd be watching this if they weren't fucking nerds.
Well, we got to include everybody. It's 2021.
Yes. Last news topic for the day. Filming has wrapped on the upcoming Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus show starring the original actor, Ewan McGregor, who I love, by the way. I think he's great. My question to both of you, I don't know if either one of you are into Star Wars. I am. But my question is, should Disney continue on this trend of bringing back original cast members and milking the shit out of the nostalgia factor of the franchise? Or should they stop, let go, and just start completely new stories with completely new characters?
I think
Because-
Chris has something to say about that.
So I'm just going to briefly say that the first movie of the J.J. Abrams one that came out, I loved the lead that they cast, but I thought they leaned way too heavily on the first three movies. The original trilogy they basically just redid that. It was like another Death Star, but slightly better. And for me personally, my opinion is they should let go of the Skywalkers. They should let go of all the old characters, a lot of whom are dead now, like Han Solo, for example. I think they should just completely branch out, do brand new characters, and just start over from scratch. I think they've milked the old characters to death at this point, but that's just my opinion. What do you think, Chris? Do you have any opinions on the trend of Star Wars?
Well, I feel like the sequel trilogy should be it, basically, for the Skywalkers and that group. But they should show, maybe have them as side characters later on, or like in The Mandalorian, he was, spoilers, he was in there briefly. But yeah, I don't mind Star Wars. I'm excited to see Obi-Wan.
I did enjoy Mandalorian. I just recently got into the Star Wars franchise. I know, guys, you guys are gonna ding me. Probably this is the third or fourth time, but I just recently got into the Star Wars movies, and I enjoyed them. But I really did enjoy the Mandalorian. I can't speak to Disney and their character franchise, but let's keep those types of shows coming. I mean,
So I will say that as much as I give Disney shit for just rehashing the same characters over and over again in the same storylines, I can't wait to see Obi-Wan, because mostly it's because I love the actor. Ian McGregor's amazing as an actor, and I think he was perfectly cast as Obi-Wan, so I can't wait to see him again. I wouldn't mind seeing Darth Maul again on screen too. I thought he was a really imposing villain. And if you've played the most recent Star Wars video games, without spoiling anything, some big villains return at the end of that game, which was incredible. So I'm not going to say that it's completely without merit to reintroduce old characters, but I think there is some room for originality in that world. So anyone else have any other opinions on that, or anything else you want to talk about?
Chris, it's all on you, my friend.
And I love The Mandalorian. It's like space Gunsmoke.
Baby Yoda.
Not a token. Yeah. Who doesn't love Baby Yoda?
All right, so before I call this an end for this episode of the podcast, I do want to introduce another member. This is going to be a permanent member of the podcast. Bear with me just a minute.
He's not getting naked, guys. Don't worry. Armani.
This is my fur child,
Mm,
Armani Rex. I didn't name him. I think it's a very pretentious name, by the way. I'm going to name my first newborn Nautica or Nike or something really stupid like that. Anyways, the dog is adorable now. So to close up, finally, let's do some shameless plugging. Where can we find you, AJ, if people want to know more about you or get to know you?
Well, I do have a Facebook page. I do have an Instagram, aj.vias39. You can find me in Frederick. I'm a friendly guy. I'm sometimes too
He's a
friendly.
very friendly guy. He
I'm
likes to talk a
sometimes
lot.
too friendly. I don't know. I like to talk. And before we end this, let's see, guys. I want to hear in the comments because this is a nerd channel, but we want to encompass all aspects of nerds. So not all nerds in video game. A lot of guys are a lot of nerds. I'm sorry, are car nerds. So let's bring the car nerds. A lot of nerds are, hey, I'm a drinking nerd. So we do want to do a bourbon podcast.
Yes, we were thinking, well, AJ came up with the idea. He was thinking about us buying a bunch of very expensive bourbons and seeing if there's any difference between a cheap bourbon or a very expensive bourbon, and just kind of tasting them all and seeing if it's worth the money or
It's
the
the
hype.
cork, guys. It's the-
I would suggest not going with the cheapest bourbon. I would say like the mid-range. You'll regret
Chris-
tasting that cheap
Chris,
bourbon.
you're gonna join us on this podcast for the bourbons
Mhm.
I love
because
how he volunteers you for that.
because it's been a long time since I've seen you in person, my friend. I miss you.
Okay, so AJ told us where we can find him. Basically, Facebook, Instagram, if you want to stalk him there. For me, I don't have anything. I don't have Snapchat, Instagram, any of that stuff.
He does have a Facebook.
The only thing I have is Facebook, and I hate that. I think the people are way too reliant on living off their cell phones at this point, but that's just my opinion. Anyways, Chris, where can we find you and your lovely content?
Well, Retro Gamer BB 2019 on YouTube, or Chrissy Poo 390 on Instagram.
Do you have
Facebook.
Do you have any new videos coming out? I think
I
Chris,
do
one of Chris's
have-
most popular videos was the StarCraft leak. I think there was a StarCraft console game that never came
StarCraft
out.
Ghost.
Yeah, that one did really well for you. That was really cool. I watched that. That was.
I got a
it
leak
texted
build
me
of
when it
that.
came out.
Had like a bunch of views, and a couple of Grand Theft Auto Vice City mods that I did on the old Xbox. Some I downloaded and some, I tweaked or added stuff, but
Hey, whatever happened to the Grand Theft Auto franchise? Did that die down now, or
No, it's like the most popular thing in the world.
re-released.
Okay.
Like Grand Theft Auto 5 came out on the Xbox 360 and PS3 era, and it's still the top selling game ever. They just keep re-releasing it over and over again. They did make Red Dead Redemption 2, but it's never going to be as popular as GTA. Anyways, you know where to find Chris and AJ. You can find me on the Digital Divide YouTube channel. That's basically the only thing I have. And then Facebook, but I'm not going to give you my personal Facebook because that'd be weird. We are working on a website. I have it mostly built out, but there's a lot more work that I need to do, so it's not quite ready to launch. But I think that's going to do it for us today. I want to thank both of you for being part of this first episode. Next week, I hope to have some new people on, and you guys are always welcome to be a part of it every single episode if you'd like. And hopefully, if the Digital Divide YouTube channel grows and the podcast channel actually takes off and people actually watch it, then who knows? Maybe you guys can join as part of the permanent cast or whatever. I mean, everything starts small. Right now, we're a little ant, and we're getting stomped on by everyone else, and I have like less than 200 subs, and I cry
Hey,
myself to sleep
Hey,
every
you
night.
never know.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll off myself tonight. Maybe
No,
maybe
no.
tonight will be the night.
Let's not be negative. Let's not be negative.
I'm just
You
kidding.
never know.